Flamingo class. Today we are going to begin the second chapter of your Flamingo book, that is Lost Spring. Without wasting a single minute, let us come to the topic as we are going to discuss it. Okay, so the chapter is Lost Spring. In this chapter, the writer is Anish Jung. Anish Jung had written this particular snap very beautifully, and in this chapter he will talk about two main characters. So let's begin the text. Why do you do this? I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning, scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. The writer used to meet a particular boy whose name is Sahib, and he used to ask him, why do you do this? What are you looking for in this dump, in this garbage? Okay. Set amidst the green, Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green field of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. Now the writer is talking about where Sahib belongs. Sahib generally belongs to Dhaka. Dhaka means Bangladesh, the capital of Bangladesh. So he left his house a very long time ago, and where his house was situated, it was all around greenery. So his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. So why he left Dhaka and why he came to India? Because due to so many storms, his family had to left his house, their house. Okay. So there were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left looking for gold in the big cities where he now lives. And that is why now he is looking for those gold coins in the garbage. Okay. So I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. He was totally busy in looking for gold. Gold means the useful material that we used to throw in the garbage. So that thing means I have nothing else to do, he mutters. He talks to himself and he said, I don't have anything to do. That's why I am doing all this. Go to school, I say glibly. I said to him, why are you not going to school? It's good to go to school. Why are you wasting your time? Realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound, as he knows very well that a poor student, a poor boy or girl cannot attend school nowadays. It's not very easy to get education. So this was also the case with Sahib. He knows that his advice is not actually realistic. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So what Sahib replied? Sahib said, as there is no school at all in his locality, so that's why he cannot go over there. And if there will be any school, then definitely he will go and join them. Okay. So if I start a school, then will you come? I asked, half joking. Then just in a mood of fun, the writer asked him, if I open a school, do you want to come? Do you want to join? What Sahib replied, yes. He said, smiling broadly. A very big smile was on his face, and he said, yes, definitely I will come. A few days later, I see him running up to me, is your school ready? After a certain period of time, after a few days, once again, Sahib came to him and he asked, you were saying that you are going to open a school. Is really your school is open? Can I join it? With such intention, he came and asked question to the writer. It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. Now writer has accepted, now writer had understood his fault, that he has made a wrong and incorrect promise to a boy who was very optimistic. So he said that it takes a lot of time in preparing, in making a building. It takes a lot of time. But promise like mine abound in every corner corner of his bleak world. But as the writer has given him a promise, a hope of a school, same type of promises, his life, his word is full of. Means his life is full of such type of bleak promises. The promises that are no mean to fulfill. Okay? After months of knowing him, I asked him his name. After a certain period of time when the writer was continuously in his contact, one day he asked his name. He told Saibi Alam. He announces. He told his name that my name is Saibi Alam. My name is Saibi Alam. He doesn't know what it means, and actually he did not know the meaning of Saibi Alam. Saibi Alam, if he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe. What is the meaning of Saibi Alam? Lord of the universe. And if he knew that the meaning of his name is Saibi Alam, then definitely it was a very, very pitiful situation for him. He would have a hard time to believe in it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So he was totally unaware about the meaning of his name, and what he did, he used to roam with his friends, the group. He used to roam with those boys, roaming for gold in the garbage. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. So when he was in continuous contact with the boy, he knew all of them by face, by name. Why are you not wearing chappals? I asked one. One day what happened? He asked to one of them, why are you not wearing chappals? What's the reason behind it? So my mother didn't bring them down for this self. He answered simply. So he answered that as his mother didn't bring them down from the shelf, that's why I am without slippers right now. So even if she did, he will throw them off at another who is wearing shoes that don't match. A boy who was there, who was wearing shoes, but those shoes doesn't match to each other. Okay, so he replied, if his mother brought down the shoes from the shelf, even then the boy will not wear that. Why? I want shoes. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. So when I comment on that particular statement, he shuffles, he became hesitant and drag his feet behind. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair of all his life. One of boy who had never owned a pair of shoes in his whole life, he said, I also want a pair of shoes. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. So as writer was a traveler, he used to travel from one place to another. So he met so many people, so many students, so many boys and girls who were traveling from one place to another. And it is not lack of money, but a tradition of stay barefoot is one explanation, I wonder. So why they were not doing all these things? Why they were not wearing slippers, chappals? It's not only because of money. Actually, it was the tradition. Due to tradition, they were not wearing the slippers. So I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So writer said to himself, is it really an excuse to explain everlasting poverty? I remember a story a man from UDP once told me. So now he is going to narrate a story from UDP, a person that explained that story. As a young boy, he would go to the school past an old temple. What was in the story? When he was a boy, when he went to school, there was a temple in the midway where his father was a priest. His father was a priest over there, and he would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. There, he regularly stops over there and he asked God to grant him a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple. After 30 years, once again, the writer went over there, and that town, which was now drawn in an air of desolation. Now that town is completely desolated. So in the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. Now in the backyard where a new priest is there and he has all the facilities, he has chairs, he has there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform wearing socks and shoes arrived punting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. So a boy came back from the school and he threw his bag on the folding bed over there. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. So when he looked at that boy, he reminded once again that particular boy who was asking for the pair of shoes in his youth. Let me never lose them. And what was his prayer? Let me not lose them. So the goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes. Now the young boys like the priest, they are wearing shoes continuously. And young boys, but many others like the replicas in my neighborhood remain shoeless. But even today, so many replicas are without shoes. My acquaintance with the barefoot replicas leads me to Simapuri. So when writer was continuously in contact with the people of Simapuri, a place to the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Though Simapuri was situated at the border of Delhi, but even then it was very far away from Delhi. So metaphorically, those who live here are squatters who came from the Bangladesh back in 1971. Most of the people who live over there are actually squatted from Bangladesh in 1971. Saheb's family is among them, and also the Saheb family is one of them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. At that time, Simapuri was an isolated place. It still is, but it is no longer empty. At that time too, it is like that. But right now, it was not empty like the previous time. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage and running water, lived 10,000 replicas. Now overall 10,000 replicas lived over there. They don't have any facilities. There is no proper sanitation, no sewage lines, no proper shade, shelter, anything. So they have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity. And the biggest thing is this, that they were living over there without any identity from last 30 years. Okay. So without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voter list and enable them to buy grains. But as they were living there for a very long period of time, that's why they have ration cards, and that's why they are able to purchase grains from the government shops. Food is more important for survival than identity. What is there? This is very important line. Food is very important than identity. What is written over here? Food is more important for survival than an identity. We don't need any identity, whether we are Bangladeshi, whether we are Indian, or whether we belong to any other nation. We don't need anything. What we need only food to eat. Got my point? So, if at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to the bed without any aching stomach, if at the end of the day we are able to fulfill the value of our children, our family, okay? So what will happen? We would rather live here than in the fields that give us no grain. So it is better to live over here than in the field, those fields where we are not able to get any food. Okay? Says a group of women in the tattered saris. When I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So when the women were working in the, this answer is given by the women who were working in the ground. When the writer has asked them. So whenever they find food, they pitch their tents and become transit home. They become transit home. So wherever they find food, they are just like the Banjaras. They move from one place to another, and wherever they get food, they are their tent. Okay. Children grow up in them, becoming partner in survival, and there the children took birth and they became the partner in the survival. So. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. What is the meaning of survival in Simapuri? Means rag picking. Okay. Through the years, it has acquired the proportion of fine arts. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread. A roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. So garbage means everything to them. Garbage is equal to gold. As they are able to get their bread. They are able to get their roof over their heads, and it doesn't matter that the roof is properly built or not. Even doesn't matter whether it is leaking or not. But at least they have a roof over their head. But for children, it is even more. But if we talk about children, rag picking means something else to the children. What is to them? I sometimes find a rupee. Even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. So this is the reply of Sahib when the writer asked him, why do you do so? He said that I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. So when if you have got such type of things from the garbage, you will never stop finding, because there is a hope in yourself that you are going to get something more from there. Okay. So it's seems that for children garbage has meaning, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. So for children it has different meaning, and for elders it has different meaning. For children it is a type of fun, and for the elders it is actually a means of survival. Okay. For the children it is a means of survival. Okay. One winter morning I see Sahib standing by the fence gate, the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. So what happened one day? Now the writer is narrating the story of another day, where Sahib was just watching some reputed people playing at the tennis. Okay, so I like the game. He hums content to watch it standing behind the fence. Though he was watching it, even then he was satisfied, because he know in himself that he will never get an opportunity to play that, and that's why he is saying that I like the game and I content to watch. So he admits the gatekeeper let me use the swing, and he also accepted that someday the gatekeepers he allowed Sahib to use that swing. Okay, Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his shoulders. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes. Sahib is also wearing tennis shoes that looks strange over his discolored shirt. Because he was wearing discolored shirt, that's why those new shoes doesn't match properly with his outfittings. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. So just explaining his thoughts, he said that someone gave them to me. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them. As we know that what do the rich people do? They often used to avoid the things, reject things if they find anything that doesn't match to their standards. So as there was a hole in the shoe, that's why a rich boy threw them, and Sahib has picked up those shoes. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. So a person who does not own the shoes in his lifetime, if he has got an opportunity to wear shoes, it's not less than a golden opportunity for him. But the game he is watching so instinctually is out of his reach. But if talk about the game, it is actually out of his reach. This morning Sahib is on his way to a milk booth. So now the writer is narrating the story of another day, and this time Sahib is actually going to the milk booth. In his hand a steel canister. There is a steel canister in his hand, and I now work in a tea stall down the road. And he said that now he is working in a tea stall. He says, pointing at the distance, he is indicating to that particular tea stall, and he said that now he is working over there. And I am paid 800 rupees in all my meals. Per full day meal I am getting 2 or 3 times meal I am getting from there, and apart from meal I am also getting 800 rupees per day, per month. So does he like the job? Now the writer puts question to himself, does he really like the job? I ask. His face I see has lost a carefree look. Now there was no satisfied expression on his face. He was totally disappointed. There was a pressure on his face. Okay. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly. So actually the steel bag, is which is really very small in size. That canister which is really very small in size is looking heavier than that big plastic bag. The bag was his. Actually, why the bag was light as the bag was his, and the canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shops. Sahib is no longer his own master. Okay. So Sahib is no longer his master. So this is the first part that we have discussed. I hope you have understood the concept. Now we are going to move to the second part. Okay. So in this same video we are going to begin the second section of the chapter Lost Spring. The second section is all about Mukesh. Mukesh is as we know a vehicle maker, but actually it was not his dream. He wanted to be a motor mechanic. So this story we are going to discuss now. So I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about car? I asked. So writer asked him, do you know anything about cars? I will learn to drive a car, he answers. Looking straight into my eyes, very confidently he replies that I will learn about cars. His dream looms like a marriage amidst the dust of streets that fill his own town Firozabad. So his dreams, when he didn't know anything, and he don't have any hope about that thing. So his dreams just like the dust of the Bengals, which fills the streets of Firozabad, famous for his Bengals. So every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making Bengals. It is the center of the India's glass blowing industry, where families have swapped generations working around furnaces, welding glasses, making Bengals for all the women in the land, it seems. So Firozabad, as we know, that the famous for the Bengal making. Their generation after generation, they have spent their entire life in making the business of the Bengal. Mukesh family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures and dingy cells without air and light. That the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. So, if law imposed, then more than 20,000 children can be out of those dingy cells. Dingy means dark cells. In the dark cells, they used to work from the morning till evening with very hot temperature in the presence of Bengals, which can cause the loss of their eyesight. Mukesh's eyes beams at he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. So Mukesh informed that my house is going to be rebuilt and we are going to be rebuilt. So he led me to his house. We walked down stinking lanes chalked with garbage, past homes that remains hovels with crumbling walls. So the sanitation is not very good of that particular area. The garbage was all over the lanes. They are chalked very properly. Past homes that remains hovels with crumbling walls. The houses were not very in a good condition. They are totally destroyed. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a bubbly iron door with his foot. So he just hit the iron door with his foot and pushes it open. We enter a half-built shape, and in one part of it thatched with dead grass. So there was dead grass in one part of the house, and is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinches lips. On the ground, large aluminium platters are more chopped vegetables. So there were a very large aluminium vessel in which chopped vegetables were there. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, and she smiles. So a very weak woman, were preparing the household food, and she was actually, there was a few more all around. So there was tears in her eyes. She is the wife of the Mukesh's elder brother. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother, not much older in years. She has begun to command respect as a bahu. She is very fresh, very new. Even then, she used to behave like an old woman and behave like a bahu. Started behaving like a bahu. The daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of the three men. She has in charge of the three men. One is her husband Mukesh and their father. Okay, so when the older man enters, he gently withdraws behind the broken walls. When the older man means the father of Mukesh, when he entered the house, by the custom, as the custom, Indian custom, she used to drag behind herself behind the walls, broken fences. And in the case the elder is an impoverished Bengal maker. Despite long years of the hard labor, first as a tailor, then a Bengal maker, he failed to renovate a house, send his two sons to school. So even then he did a lot of hard labor, and first as a tailor, then as a Bengal maker. But even then he was not able to fulfill the daily needs. He was not in the condition to rebuild a house, proper house. He was not in the condition to send his children to the school. All he managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making Bengals. So what he did he taught them the art of making Bengals. Okay. So in this, it is his karam is dismissed as Mukesh's grandmother. Mukesh's grandmother said that it is their karam, their destiny, we cannot do anything. To watch her own husband go blind in the dust of polishing the glass of the Bengals. Her own husband became blind to do this Bengal making business. And can a God-given lineage can ever be broken? Very important line once again. Can a God-given lineage cannot be broken? Okay. Simple as born in the caste of Bengal makers, they have seen nothing but Bengals in the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. As they were born, they have taken birth in the caste of Bengal Bengals, so they have seen only Bengals all around them. Okay. So now spirals of the Bengal, sunny, gold, paddy, green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow. 9 moons in encamped yards are piled on 4-wheeled hand carts. So all colors Bengals, they were decorated on a 4-wheel cart and by the young men along the narrow lanes of this shanty town. And in the dark hutways next to the lines of the flames of the flickering oil lamps sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers. So all the family members with father, mother, okay, daughter, boys, everyone, they used to sit around the flames and polishing the Bengals. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. As they are working very hard, so that is why their eyes are more adjusted to the actually the darkness in comparison to light. So that is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become illiterate. So that's why they lost their eyesight before they become eared. So Savita, young girl in the draped in dress, sits alongside an elderly woman shouldering pieces of glasses as her hands move mechanically like the tongues of a machine. So she was so perfect in doing all these things that her hands acts like a machine. I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the Bengal she helps make. So writer now puts question to herself that whether she knows the piousness of these Bengals. If she knows the sanctity of the Bengals, it symbolizes the Indian woman's suhag. So if she knew that the meaning of Bengal is suhag as per the Indian women, auspiciousness in marriage. I will dawn on her suddenly one day when her head is wrapped with the red veil. Her hands dyed red with henna and red Bengals rolled onto her wrist. She will then become a bride. At that, when that day will come, then at that time she will be a bride. Okay, like the old woman beside her who make many years ago, she still has Bengals on her wrist. She still has but no light in her eyes. एक वक्त शेर बाहर खाना भी नहीं खाया, she says, in a voice drained of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. So that is why she has raped her husband, an old man with flowing beard, says, I know nothing except Bengals. All I have done is to make a house for a family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. So at least he is able to get a roof over his head. The cry of not having money, do anything except carry on his business of making Bengals, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the lament of their elders. Little has moved with time. It seems in Firozabad, years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and ability to dream. So this is all we have going through in this chapter. So writer puts a question to themselves, why are you not making yourself into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into a vicious circle of the middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers. So as middlemen always causes harm to their forefathers, their fathers, so why are you not forming a cooperative? Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police, beaten and dragged to the jail for doing something illegal. So what the writer is saying that if we will try to do all these things, then once again it will be only ourselves who will be dragged by the police, we will put into the jail for doing something illegal. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. So they talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy to grief to injustice. So listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. One of the family caught in the web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. So this is actually the stigma of their caste. The other is vicious circle. One is, what is the one reason? The stigma of caste. The another one is that they have taken, the other is the vicious circle of the Sahukas, the middlemen, the policemen and the keepers of law, the bureaucrats and the politicians. Together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down. They all have put down a lot of burden on them that they cannot avoid right now. To do anything else would mean to dare If we want to try anything else, it means daring, and daring it's not really very possible. Okay, so and daring is not a part of growing up. When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered. But when the writer saw that there in Mukesh, she became very cheered. I want to be a motor mechanic, he repeats. Once again he said that he want to be a motor mechanic. He will go to the garage and learn. But the garage is a long way from his home. I will walk, he insists. So the writer once again put a question that the garage is very far away from your home. But he insisted on the fact that I will go by foot. Okay, so no, he said, he's staring at the ground. If he smiles, however, there is an embarrassment that has not even turned into regret. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his own town. Few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. So this is all about the chapter. I hope that you have gone through the chapter and you know the chapter very well. Even if you have any query from this text, you can consult me in the WhatsApp group. There we can sort out all your problems, all your all your textual problems actually. So we will deal all those things over there. Okay. Till then, stay home, stay safe.